Not only are the Royals enjoying their longest winning streak in April since 2015, but they're running away with a lot of their games. What does that mean? We'll dive into it next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuning to Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson. Be sure to follow me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. You also can find us on wherever you get your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast. We're on Odyssey and we're on YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. We're also sponsored by eBay Motors today. They are the title sponsor, and they're going to have you covered when you're trying to get your car fixed. And we have so much to talk about with them. Probably do that in 10 to 15 minutes or so. But eBay Motors is always going to have you covered for the right price, and they'll have the right part for you every single time you reach out to them. So we are very happy that they are the title sponsor for today's episode. If you're a first-time listener, of course, welcome in. We love new listeners here on the Locked On Royals channel. And if you want to know a little bit more about me, I'm based here in Kansas City. I work at Sports Radio 810 WHB, doing some hosting, co-hosting, and some producing. So I stay pretty busy in the sports world. But when it comes to this podcast, when you click on this link, you know that you are getting 30 straight minutes of the red-hot Kansas City Royals, who last night won their sixth straight game. And we're going to dive into some of the winning streaks in April in our final segment today. But there's no hotter team in baseball right now. And yes, it is April. Yes, it is early. And every fan has a right to their own opinion. You are entitled to that opinion. If you want to be overly optimistic and say this team is a playoff team, that's fine. If you want to be kind of in the middle of, well, I'm really happy what's going on, but I'm not going to overreact to 12 games, that's fine as well. And you also, although I just don't agree with this way of living, if you are watching good baseball, is you are waiting for the collapse to happen. You are waiting for the quote-unquote normal Royals to show up and lose 10 in a row or lose 12 in a row or really bottom out by the summer. Everybody's entitled to believe what they want to believe, right? I've kind of taken the approach of you got to put it into perspective. It is 12 games, but it also is a very important month for the Royals. And I think everybody knew how important that first month of the season was. They didn't have the luxury of starting slow. In fact, I remember after that 0-2 start, I put that out on Twitter of this team just doesn't have the luxury of starting slow. Nobody's going to support them. And you can't fall to 4-9 like Houston is and go, well, we're going to be just fine. We're going to be better. You can't do that after losing 106 games. So the fact that they have now won 6 in a row, they're 8-4, second place in the Central, and have the second best run differential in baseball, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about where they're at. And we go back to 2021 because we talked about it a little bit on Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. But the 2021 team did have a great record in April. They were 7 games over 500. They were 16-9. It was the first full season under Mike Matheny. And I think we all were so shell-shocked by this Royals team suddenly catching fire. Everything was breaking their way. And you felt like this is a playoff team, or at least if you fell for the April record. That team did not have a good run differential when the month ended. No, of their 9 losses they had, a lot of them were blowouts. I mean, they were getting smoked by good teams, but they were beating bad teams or teams that were banged up. And they weren't demolishing those teams. They weren't clobbering those teams. They were winning in the final innings. No, the Royals' rotation wasn't that solid. They were giving up a lot of runs. Now, the offense, honestly, is what carried them for a little bit of that first month of the season. Not everybody, but there were some big-time performers. And the bullpen, I think, was doing its job enough. But the run differential was basically telling you that team was not good at all. They were just having things break their way. Contrary to that, this Royals team is not just beating teams, they are demolishing teams. And they have put themselves among the elite in run differential. And that, to me, is a really good judgment of a team. It always has been for me. Whether it's a 10-game sample size, 20, 40, 50, doesn't matter. When I am looking at a team's record and I am trying to evaluate just how good they are or they have been, run differential is a huge takeaway for that. And for the Royals, going back to that first Minnesota series, right? They win 11-0 on Sunday. Then they have a very competitive series in Baltimore. They destroy the White Sox in game one and have some competitive games, but find a way to pull away late a few times. And then you look at this Houston series. Some people were going to, say this was the series for the Royals to take a step back. Houston was catching fire a little bit, and the Royals have just smoked them. They have smoked them in the first two games. And that, to me, keeps going back to the point of, at the end of the day, this team is just maybe better than we even expect them to be right now. We think that this is a group that we knew was going to be improved from last year because it wasn't hard to make that jump. But I'm starting to believe that they may be significantly better than where they were last year. Not trying to overreact to a 12-game sample size, but a lot of these numbers that I'm seeing, a lot of these players that are performing well, I don't see it as fluky. I don't see Cole Reagan's pitching well as fluky. I don't see Bobby Witt Jr. Hitting the ball well as fluky. You could be one of the fans that thinks MJ Melendez or Nelson Velasquez or, Michael Garcia, their starts of the season are fluky. Fine. But again, I go back to the advanced numbers, some of that data of hard hit rate, barrel percentage, WRC plus, expected slugging, expected batting average. All of those things are favoring the Royals offense. Their pitching staff has been second best in baseball. Their bullpen now has evened out. They haven't allowed a run in a week. So, yeah, that's going to result in a winning streak like this. But I'm starting to think that this 8-4 start is not just, wow, they're riding the coattails of just good baseball. They're beating up on bad teams. Oh, you can't take too much away from it. I'm not believing that's what we're witnessing. I think we are witnessing a team that is incredibly confident. They've got this energy. They've got this swagger about themselves. The offense is hitting the ball well. The pitching staff is carrying the workload. The bullpen is doing its job. They're the second best base running team in baseball. I mean, all of these numbers, tops in baseball, right? They are really putting themselves in elite categories. Well, when I look at that, when I see that this early in the season, it's not to go, okay, down the road, they're going to be just as good, or down the road, they're going to bottom out. I just go, if they're this good early on and you are consistently, this is a 12-game sample size. If it was 3 games, you can't take away too much. 12-game sample size is small when you're looking over 162. But 12 games is still enough time to go. One of those games is going to go against their advantages. One of those games is going to go not their way, right? But I think when you put yourself in that category, run differential, your slugging, your ERA, your OPS plus, your expected batting average, your base running ability, your bullpen ERA, the expected ERA, the walk, strikeout. I'm just throwing stats out here for what you can look at. But when you find yourself at the top of all of those categories, top five, top five, I don't see a world in which that just flips and they're bottom five. Like, there's going to be regression. I don't see the Royals being top 5 in all of those categories all year long, right? Because they're still going to have to do more to show to everybody this is a playoff team. We're riding the high of a 6-game winning streak, and that's all fun and dandy, and it's exciting, and everybody's loving it right now. But I think the good thing you can take away with it is that I don't see a scenario in which all of a sudden the Royals start getting crushed by everybody. I don't. I think this team is better equipped to handle good teams. I mean, Houston started slow. They are a little bit banged up in their rotation, but they still have a very good lineup. They have a lineup that put up 10 runs in the series finale against Texas before coming to Kansas City. And the Royals have held them just to 5 runs so far. The White Sox, it's a bad lineup, right? Not very good. They've scored, I think, 12 runs in the last 2 games against Cleveland, the front runner in the American League Central. Like, what the Royals have done through 12 games is undeniably impressive. It's a very good look for a team that knew how important a hot start in April was. But to me, I don't see it where all these numbers flip and they're bottom 5 and they join the ranks of the basement dwellers, if you will. There's going to be regression, but you hope that regression still keeps them in the top 10 or the top 12, which right now, I mean, if they can stay healthy, they got a lot of guys that have talent that can lead them to a winning season. It is 12 games, but right now it's just hard to nitpick anything negative about this 8-4 ball club. Later on today, they will be playing the series finale at Kauffman Stadium against the Astros, wrapping up the homestand. The Royals are 6-0 on this homestand. Will look to make it 7 in a row before heading off to New York to take on the Mets over the weekend. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, Seth Lugo has 3 quality starts in his first 3 starts as a Royal, and he's doing exactly what the Royals paid him to do. We'll talk about him next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jack Johnson. You can follow me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. Before we go any further, want to give a shout out to one of our newer sponsors in Policygenius. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies and their team of licensed experts and is on hand to help you talk you through it with life insurance. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step and easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work-life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. So here's what you need to do. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to polygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description that we have to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's polygenius.com/lockedonmlb. And we also want to give a few words to our title sponsor today in eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Last night, it was easy just to say the offense won the Royals the game. They had a 7-run third inning off of a rookie pitcher, and they coasted from that point on. The offense still found a way to put together 4 more runs. Vinny Pasquantino, who we talked about on the podcast right before the game, 3 for 3, 5 RBIs, a career high for him. And now you look up at the batting average, and he'll see it today on the Jumbotron at Kauffman Stadium. Doesn't look as bad. He is somebody that is slowly starting to come around a little bit, right? He had that double in was it the second inning? It was the third inning. It was the 7-run third inning. He drove in the first 2 runs of the game. It wasn't the bloop hit, the bleeder that we talked about, but it was an opposite field double, right? It was a ball that fell exactly where he needed to be, and he was the star of the show. right? Vinny Pasquantino was the guest with Joel Goldberg after the game. He got the Salvi splash, all of that. So he was the star of the game. But we also have to give praise to the starting pitcher and another starting pitcher for the Royals who gave the team their 9th quality start in 12 games. That is, of course, number one in all of baseball. And Seth Lugo has 33% of the quality starts for the Royals this year. And I'm just going to lead it off with saying he's doing exactly what he did last year. He is doing exactly what the Royals paid him to do. When they gave him that contract, and he was really the first domino to fall, the big domino. Right? The Royals had signed a couple of bullpen guys, right? They had Will Smith, they had Garrett Hampson, but it was all just rumors about starting pitchers that they wanted. And Seth Lugo had so much smoke to his name, right? The Royals were interested. They were interested last offseason, couldn't get it done, and they give Seth Lugo the 3-year deal. And they gave him that 3-year deal, and they gave him the money because he was somebody you can count on every fifth day to keep your team in it. He is not going to overpower you with 8-9 strikeouts over 8 shutout innings. That's what Cole Reagans can do, right? That's what your ace can do. I would even say Michael Walker's got more swing and miss stuff than Seth Lugo. Brady Singer's got more swing and miss stuff than Seth Lugo. In fact, I would even have an argument that Alec Marsh does as well. But Seth Lugo is a pro. Seth Lugo is experienced. He just knows how to get through 6 innings. He knows how to pitch with the lead. He knows how to pitch from behind. He knows how to pitch in a tie game, right? Where not everybody in the rotation can do that as easily. You know, you would think for a pitcher, hey, if I have a 7-run cushion, an 8-run cushion, I can pitch at my best. Not necessarily. Some guys get lax. They leave the ball over the zone a little bit more. They get hit around. They give up 4, 5, 6 runs, and the game is a game again. But not Seth Lugo. And I have been so impressed really with these last 2 starts. His first start against Minnesota felt like his stuff was really on. Not so much in the first 2 innings, but then he really found rhythm and Minnesota couldn't hit him. And Minnesota has one of the worst offenses in baseball right now. Chicago, not a very good lineup, but he really didn't have his stuff. I thought he was missing a lot. The White Sox weren't biting too much on his pitches that were bouncing. You know, his famous curveball, the elite spin rate that it has, the White Sox were spitting on it. So he was left up to just grinding through it, limiting the hard contact, getting double play balls when you had runners on. And he tossed another quality start. I think it was 6 1/3 or 6 2/3. I think it was 6 2/3 because Serpa came in for the final out. Last night, he gets the big cushion, and Houston comes back with 2 immediately, and you go, all right, well, Houston might be able to make a little bit of a run here, get 2 more runs, and all of a sudden it's a save situation for the Royals. But he just battened down the hatches. He bared down, and he got through 6 innings. He didn't have tremendous stuff, but he was facing a good lineup. He had a cushion, and he just bridged the gap to the bullpen and gave the Royals yet another quality start. You know, last year, sometimes the Royals would get that cushion, and their starter could only go 4 or 5 innings. They'd give up 4 or 5 more runs, and the game would become a game again. This is so important to have a guy that if you can build a lead, he can take off with it. It's not oh man, can he, hold the dam together before the water gates bust open? Is he that type of pitcher that just puts a Band-Aid on a cracked part of the dam and not really doing much, just trying to hold it together until you get to the bullpen? No, Seth Lugo can just give you quality start after quality start, and J.J. Picollo and John Sherman knew that when they signed him. He had 17 quality starts last year. 17 of them. Way over 60% of his starts last year were quality starts. I mean, you can count on that from Seth Lugo. There will be a game this year. He does not have a quality start, but he'll probably be able to follow up the next one with a quality start. It's just what he does. And the Royals identified that, and they wanted that with their starter, or at least one of the guys they brought in. They knew Cole Reagans was their phenom. No, he is the guy that everybody marvels at. But Walker and Lugo are kind of interchangeable in that part of they're going to keep you in the game nearly every single time out. And then you hope Brady Singer could bounce back. We'll see what he looks like today. But so far through 2 starts, he looks like the old version of Brady Singer. Alec Marsh One really good start, one not so much, but he's your fifth starter. The two anchors in the rotation are Waka and Lugo. And through their first 5 starts now combined, they've been exactly as advertised. This is what you paid for. It is money well spent early on, and they are a huge reason why this rotation has taken such a big leap in the first 12 games of the season. Okay, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about this winning streak and the significance of it. But before we do that, want to give a shout out to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. When we come back, let's dive into this win streak, and especially the winning streak in April. The last time the Royals won this many games in a row was 2015, and before that, it was 2003. What did those two teams do? I know you're familiar with one of them at least. We'll talk about the significance of it next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson. Be sure to follow me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. And you also can find us on wherever you get your podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, and Odyssey, and on YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. Before we go any further, want to give a shout out to the final sponsor today in FanDuel. And with FanDuel, though the college basketball season is concluded, we know NBA, NHL, and baseball in full swing right now. NBA is getting closer and closer to playoff time, and it's all going to be happening at FanDuel. They have great deals over there, and I wanted to let you know that new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And even though I have told all of you before that college basketball, the NCAA tournament was my wheelhouse, now I've kind of transitioned to putting some money down on the Royals and these prop bets they have. It's fun to bet on a team with a winning streak. They haven't been favored in the last couple of games, so if you've been betting with your team, with the Royals, you've probably been cashing out, but hopefully you've been cashing out with FanDuel. So again, be sure to go over there, create an account, and use our code so you can start winning big today. Well, let's talk about this winning streak that the Royals have. 6 in a row and counting. They'll have a chance to make it a perfect homestand, 7-0. If they can take down the Astros this afternoon, it'll be Brady Singer versus Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros, who was supposed to pitch the other night but got pushed back to today. So the Royals will get a chance to see him in full force and probably not a very full Kauffman Stadium. We'll probably save that for a podcast episode next week about the sparse crowds in Kansas City. I, for one, am not too shocked by it. I don't think the Royals have ever drawn that well in April, with the exception of 2015 and 2016. I mean, even in 2014, people weren't fully on board just yet about showing up to Kauffman Stadium. But the weather's been great. Now, that's been the difference compared to the last couple of years. The last couple of years, the team wasn't good, so I didn't blame you for showing up in April. But back when the Royals were competing, when they were good, they had bad weather. I mean, I remember multiple times in 2014 that it was just chilly. It was 40 degrees. It was rainy. It was windy. It was not fun to go out there and sit and be just bitter cold all night long. And so for those that didn't really care, I guess I would say, to only watch the baseball game, it was an enjoyable experience. Like for some people, all you care about is the game. You don't care about the weather. You don't care about what concession food you get, what the beer tastes like. You just are there for the baseball game. So you're not going to care about the weather. For some people out there that want the whole experience, you may not want to go out there when the weather's not as good. But that's been the difference. The last couple of games, and especially during this homestand, it's been really good weather out there at Kauffman Stadium. And I don't think the ticket prices have been that bad. I've been out to 3 games now, and all 3 of those games, I did not pay a lot of money to go sit in the upper deck, and there's a lot of seats to choose from. It's not like it's slim pickings, but again, that's for next week. I think we'll talk about the sparse crowds before we get to the next homestand, which I think starts with the Baltimore Orioles over the weekend. So that should be a great time to pack Kauffman Stadium. The reigning American League East champs coming into Kauffman. The Royals hopefully still, riding high, maybe still with the winning streak. Who knows? That would be a lot of games in a row. That might actually break the Royals record if they wouldn't have lost up until that point. But again, it is a little bit disappointing to see Kauffman Stadium with such a small crowd. I mean, I'm not going to complain over 20,000 people. I mean, it is a weeknight. Not everybody can get out there. It's shortly after work, right? If you get off at 5 or 5:30, you get home by 6 o'clock. The game's at 6:40. It's a quick turnaround for a lot of people. And school is still in session, so people have to, pick up kids from school, bring them home, get them settled. There's a lot of factors going on right now. But the matter is, the Royals have won 6 in a row. And the last time they won this many games in a row was 2015, who began the year at 7-0. We all know what that 2015 team did. And before that 2015 team, the 2003 Royals won 9 games in a row to start the year. And they had a ridiculous April. That might have been the best April record the Royals have had since 2000. In fact, I'm going to lock that in. That was the best record the Royals ever had in April. But the 2015 Royals started 7-0. And they fell to 8-4, actually, which is where the Royals are at right now. But the most important thing is those two teams since 2000 finished with winning records. And that, to me, is very important for this club. We can throw it at, any negative fan and say, oh, be excited about the winning streak, a good April team, and they'll probably hit you back with, it's April, just wait till they bottom out in June. But winning in April is important, right? Not a lot of people put huge emphasis on it because it's so early, because good teams have even started slow before and rebounded well in the summer. But playing well in April for this club was vital, was absolutely a necessity. They could not walk out of April 10 games below 500. They couldn't. They couldn't bury themselves. And there's still time to bury themselves, but I'm not looking at it this way. They've won 6 in a row. They've played really, really good baseball. They've actually played better than what their record shows. And that's maybe the most impressive thing. But since 2000, you look at the only other 2 clubs in Royals history to win this many games in a row, they both finished with a winning record, which, as we all know, would put the Royals in serious contention to win the division. And that, of course, is the hope. That is the hope this team can battle it out with Cleveland and Minnesota and Detroit and be the lone standing team when it's all said and done. But I look around the Central, Cleveland has the best run differential in baseball. They probably won't be number 1 when it's all said and done, and the Royals are not going to be number 2. But I watched a couple of Cleveland's games against Chicago and the White Sox lineup, and I thought that the strength for Cleveland would be their pitching. They're dealing with injuries, and Cleveland is really struggling to put the White Sox in their place. They've won the series. They won 2 of 3, but the White Sox blew a 5-0 lead last night. So Cleveland doesn't look as unbeatable as their record shows. Detroit, they escaped in Pittsburgh with an extra innings win, but they were on the verge of being swept in that series. They lost their series against Oakland at home. So the Central, once again, is looking very winnable. And the Royals look like, at this point in time, the team that's playing the best. They've got a really good rotation. The bullpen's evened out. The offense is playing well with young stars and young stars that are really popping for a lot of eyes around Major League Baseball. And this winning streak is coming at the perfect time, really, because April is what grabs everybody's attention. Should I care about the Royals this year? Should I watch the Royals this year? You win 6 in a row and maybe 7 in a row today. People are going to want to show up to the stadium. They're going to want to believe in you. They're going to start buying jerseys. They're going to use money on the Bally Sports app, even though it's not the greatest app in the world. Last year was like, why am I going to spend money when they're already 2-10? I'm not going to do that. Now, there's a little bit more reason to spend some money and watch this baseball club, who, as I just said, will be going for win number 7 and another series sweep and cap off a perfect homestand later on this afternoon. First pitch 1:10. Brady Singer will toe the slab against Hunter Brown. So will they get it done? Let us know in the YouTube comments. I'll try to get this out in a timely manner so you can use this as your pregame watch, if you will. Or if you're going out to the game, maybe listen to it on the way down to Kauffman Stadium. And that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Be sure to follow me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. One last shout out to Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now, available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Tomorrow, we're going to have another edition of a Mailbag Friday. I'll send it out after the game, so send me all of your questions, and we'll get to every single one of them tomorrow. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.